So Payday 3's early access period has officially ended and the game is now available to purchase for everyone on Xbox Series X and S, PS5 and PC via Steam, Epic Games Store and Windows. So you can get hold of the game now, whether you're on Silver, Gold, Standard Edition, whatever it may be. And at this point, I've now played for about 30-ish hours on the early access, and I've got a lot of thoughts about the game, and I want to do kind of a pros and cons video here, where every time I talk about a good thing, I'll talk about a more negative thing. Not everything is of the same severity, but I do want to talk about both the good and the bad to give a balanced opinion of Payday 3 as a review for those of you still on the fence wondering whether or not you should buy it. And before I get into that, I need to preface it by talking about two things. First off, I'm not touching on microtransactions. I'm not bringing that into this equation because they are not present in Payday 3 at launch. I'm still worried about them. I still don't think they belong in Payday 3, but that's a whole other thing. And because they've not put it in the game at launch, I'm not going to factor it into this review, which honestly is probably one of the reasons why they didn't put it in the game at launch, so that it wouldn't factor into reviews, if we're being completely fair. But that's why I'm not touching on it. So I'm just reminding people that is going to happen, but since it's not here yet, I can't comment on it, so I'm not including it here. And on top of that, I am well aware of the mess that it's been on PlayStation 5, and I don't have much to say there. The main thing was, first off, people couldn't play it on early access for about 12 hours after the game came out, or I think it was a bit longer. It sounds like Sony pushed out the wrong version of Payday 3, where you could only play one tutorial heist and that was it. I don't know if that was down to Starbreeze sending them a wrong version or whatever happened there. I'm not sure whose fault it was. But from my previous experience as a Payday 2 console player, I know that Sony and Microsoft sometimes take a lot of time to push updates out and approve them, Sony in particular, from what I'm hearing. And I think that's why it took so long for that fix to come out, more like 12, 15 hours, was because we were just sitting waiting on Sony to approve it, basically. But aside from that, on PS5, cutscenes don't have any audio, and on top of that, the pre-order content and the Gold and Silver Edition content is just not available in the game and won't be in there until roughly October 5th, which is just... it's not great. So I really do feel for you guys on PS5, because it really isn't the best first impression to make when all we've been saying from myself relaying their information and Starbreeze talking about it is that it's going to be different on consoles, and I know that it will be proven over time, fingers crossed, that everything will be alright, but as launches go, it was rough, and I totally get everyone who's been put off by that. It does suck, it really does. But let's talk about the pros and cons. I've got 6 of each, and I want to bounce between the two, give my thoughts, and see what you all think in the comment section below. Whether you've picked up the game or not, let me know what you think of Payday 3. Are you excited as a viewer? Are you going to be picking up because you've seen some of our content? Are you playing the game? What do you think from there? Let me know. But the first pro that I want to focus on is the gunplay, because it's a big plus. For me, the combat, the use of the weapons, the feel of the weapons, and the variety of the weapons are all very, very, very strong, and in particular the customization. I really like the weapon leveling system. I do think it might take a little bit too long to level up the guns. That's just my personal opinion. I have played, like I said, now for about 30 hours. I haven't used 50 million guns, and none of my guns are even close to max level. Maybe a couple of the secondaries are, but the primaries certainly not. So I do feel like the leveling on the weapons could be a little bit slow, but the actual gunplay with the weapons is a huge step up from Payday 2. They feel more responsive, they feel more natural, and I like that the guns feel like they're landing hits properly. It doesn't feel as arcadey anymore, which I know might put some people off, but to me it feels a bit more like a grounded shooter, which is what I wanted Payday 3 to be. I didn't want it to be super goofy, and for everyone who would hate me saying it, I don't want there to be heisters running around with giant golden spoons. Look, I get it, it was funny for Payday 2, but I really wanted Payday 3 to be a bit more serious, and they've definitely landed that tone, and I'm really happy about it. I think the whole way that the shooting feels is perfect. But onto the con side, the first thing I need to talk about is Nebula. Now, I'm willing to give Starbreeze the benefit of the doubt here, but I do want to lead with this because I want it to be known for people thinking of picking up the game now. Matchmaking is not great right now. It's a little bit of a mess, I'll be completely honest with you. Bringing up the social menu is a bit of a nightmare in and of itself. At the minute, I'll be sat on the menu pressing the social button, and sometimes it just won't come up. Sometimes it'll take 10-20 seconds to come up. It's just a bit janky, to be fair. Second off, I don't always see all my friends that are online. It's buggy. Some are saying that they're offline when they're not. Some just aren't appearing at all. One of my closest friends on Xbox I've been trying to play the game with the last couple of days. I have tried putting his name into Nebula. I've tried everything. I can't get his profile to appear, and I can't even invite him from Xbox player to Xbox player. I can't bring up the Xbox HUD, go on his profile and invite to game. There's no option to do that. Matchmaking both between people on the same platform and on crossplay is not super reliable right now, and I'm also finding that going into public matches, I'm not always landing in with other players. I'm often ending up in lobbies on my own, which is just a little bit of a shame because I know there's people playing. But you've also got to remember, as I've said, I'm giving Starbreeze the benefit of the doubt because they haven't had their own social system before in a game. This is a new thing for them, so they've got to explore the teething issues and fix some of these things up. But I want to mention them now so that it's on their radar if it's not already, which, let's be fair, it probably is, so they can fix these things. Because right now, trying to play with friends is a little bit of a nightmare in a lot of places, and just the social menu genuinely needs touching up and improving and just being a bit more responsive. That'll get there, no doubt, but it needs saying. If you're planning to get straight in and heist with friends, bear in mind it may not be super easy. Some people have had no problems, but you may get some, like I have. Back to the pros, though, and I've got to talk about stealth, because stealth, just like I thought in Sweden, just like we've seen in the beta, across the board, stealth is absolutely brilliant. It is easily far and above the best thing in Payday 3 in terms of improvements from the previous game. The whole stealth system, being able to do so much en masse now, is gorgeous. I have beat 3 heists already now without even putting my mask on. Granted, one of them was no rest for the wicked and you have to restart knowing the vault code to do that, but it's still completing unmasked one way or another, and I really love that. I love that you have so much freedom to do some of the stealth heists without having to mask up. But granted, there are some where you do have to, like Art Gallery or like Touch the Sky. You can't do those heists without masking up. It's physically impossible to do it as far as I'm aware anyway. And bar the odd issue, like with Art Gallery, the loot secure point, which I think is a little bit too challenging to get to. I've seen a couple people manage it, but the amount of civilians around that van secure point is a little bit too much, at least in my opinion. I really don't have much to say about stealth in a negative way. I really, really don't. I think stealth is so satisfying, and it's definitely what I've played more of in Payday 3 at the minute. It's such an enticing system, and I'm loving the skill layout for it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Just everything feels fresh in stealth. It doesn't feel janky. As soon as I played Payday 3 stealth in the beta, every time I played Payday 2 stealth afterwards, and every time I'd fail from a stupid feature in there, like guards instantly shooting you as soon as they see you, I just kept thinking in my head, I can't wait for Payday 3 stealth. I cannot wait to be done with Payday 2 stealth, and now it's gone, and I'm very happy, because Payday 3 stealth is just leagues better. Absolutely leagues. So for me, huge plus. But on the negative side, I have had problems playing as a solo player, and I want to put this out there because I don't think Payday 3 is the most solo player friendly game. None of these are game breaking things, none of these are things that make the game unnecessarily hard, but there's a few things I've noticed that I personally feel as though for the solo player, you're at a disadvantage compared to playing with other people. For one thing, I said it in the beta, I'll say it again, the die packs in No Rest for the Wicked, you should be able to defuse all those on your own if you're a solo player. You physically can't, you can do 6. Maybe if you're super fast and you've got really good sensitivity, you get 7 or 8. I've heard some people say that. You're on demon speed if you're doing all 8 die packs, because it's physically impossible for me to do it. So I think that there should be some kind of timer increase on the die packs if you're on your own to just make it a bit easier to do that. Of course, if you're making adjustments for the solo player, how do you then change it so that if someone happens to join your lobby, it's not easier for everybody? I get that. It's not easy for them to maintain because you can't even play solo yet. There's invite-only lobbies, but not solo lobbies, which again stems to there not being an offline mode. I'm not going over that again, I really hate it, but we're just going to move on because I'm hoping they're going to address it at some point, even though I'm not optimistic. But there are other things as well, and one thing Payday 3 is doing is they've said they're trying to get rid of drills, not use drills as much, but it's very clear they've swapped out drills for just another mechanic they're going to use all the time again, which is this Wi-Fi hacking thing, where you need to stand in certain spots around the map to give Shade a good signal so she can do her tech wizardry. And it pops up in a few too many heists where I'm like, this is very clearly your drill alternative, and the problem with it is, on your own, you still have to do just as many Wi-Fi hacks as if there's 2, 3, 4 people, and on stealth, it can get a bit of a nightmare if you're running around to 5 different spots to try and get it done. It just makes it feel like more of a drag, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I wonder if the number of Wi-Fi hacks should scale based on the player's presence. I think that would be a good idea, but I don't know how easy that would be to enforce, and I get that, obviously. And on top of that, it was confirmed to me by one of the developers that the AI bots do not revive each other. I thought it was a bug. Turns out it's intentional. So when you're playing solo loud, if you happen to get to that point, if a stealth run goes wrong, for example, and you're trying to quickly get out in the middle of a loud gunfight, if your AI teammates are shot, you've got to make the effort to revive them. And I hate that. I'm going to be honest, that is one thing I absolutely loathe because it feels like a step down from Payday 2. Apparently the design choice was to make sure that the AI didn't carry you through the game, but their health is not high enough for it to be a big godly, I'm going to protect you kind of thing anyway. So realistically, they need to be reviving each other, at least in my opinion. I think it's a mess that they can't do that, and it makes it so much harder. I know you've got the phases to try and save you and help you get out of the heist on time, but sometimes you just can't cut that if you fail a stealth run, and I don't want to feel like I have to restart because I won't be able to rely on the AI as a solo player. That sucks, and I don't want us to get to that point, so I'm putting that out there. Another pro, though, is the skills. I think the skill system in Payday 3 is very, very well done. I haven't unlocked nearly all the skill points yet. I'm on about 12 of the 21. I think you only get more when you get to about level 100. So I'm currently building my way up and experimenting with builds, but the skill system to me is a resounding success. Running it around Rush, Grid, and Edge, and having a lot of skills and buffs based on those and things you can do to unlock them, consume them, that kind of thing, is really, really good. Stealth skills are great. I don't think there's many skills in Payday 3, if any at all, really. Maybe Last Man Standing and Master Trader are 2 skills that popped out as cool ones for loud, but there's nothing that I think is Inspire level, where if you don't get the skill, you're at a massive disadvantage. I think that's very important to stress. I think the actual balance of the skills across the board is much, much stronger in Payday 3. I've not got much else to say than that, other than I'm having fun with it. Can't wait to get full skill points, because only at that point will I start doing builds. I'm waiting for 21 skill points, otherwise my build video is just not going to be the best they can be. On the con side, though, one thing that does upset me is that there are some features in Payday 2 that didn't make it over to Payday 3, and I feel like in some places they're very noticeable, which is a shame because as a whole, Payday 3 is a huge step up from Payday 2. Some of these things could be added post-launch. I'm well aware of that. These could be quality of life changes that can be easily fixed. First off, no pre-planning, I think, is just a real waste. Pre-planning was one of the best things Payday 2 had going for it, and in Payday 3, you can't even bring up a map of the heist. You only get to pick whether you're putting an ammo bag, a doctor bag, a med bag, or a zipline bag down, and even then, you don't know where it's going until you get into the heist. You sometimes get additional favors you can pull in the heist, like an extra loot drop-off, which apparently you randomly unlock from beating other heists. The UI is not updated to show you that, but apparently they are working on fixing that, so that's good. But you can't view the map, you can't choose where things are going, and there's nothing to really make planning the heist feel unique before you get in there. Now, you could say this is an advantage because it means that the gameplay is made within the heist and not in the planning screen. I get that, but at least being able to view the map and talk through friends about, oh, we can go in this way and go around here, that would be really cool. And there not even being a map is a little sad. Of course, there's also the issue where the UI is very bugged right now, and most of the time you can't pick favors, but I know they're working on that, so that'll get fixed down the line, thankfully. But on top of that, there were a couple of other things. Not being able to name loadouts is a bit sucky. There not being a jukebox feature where you can pick different tracks for different heists. I think that'll get added later on, but that needs to be in there. And still, no pausing. Again, I hate to go for another solo player thing, but the amount of times I've tried to pause the game and go do something else, whether it's making a video, checking on something, getting ready for a stream, and then gone, oh, I can't pause it. It's not good. They need to add a pause feature, and they did say they're looking into it, so hopefully we get there. But it's just a few things that I want them to add to make it feel like across the board in every conceivable way Payday 3 is better, because they're almost there, but there's just a few things that are missing for me. I kind of touched on it a second ago though, so for pros, I've got to say music. Gustavo Cucimio has knocked it out of the park with the soundtrack. He has not made a bad song in Payday 3 at all. I mean, I really argue he didn't do one in Payday 2 either. But in Payday 3, every song is really, really good. Even the meme song that you can hear in Nightclub, if you haven't heard it, I won't spoil it for you. All I will say is adjust the speakers in your stealth run and see what happens, because it's glorious. But across the board, the music is absolutely brilliant. I think Gustavo has absolutely nailed it, and the interview with him is still to be recorded. I cannot wait to chat to him about that. It's just genuinely a fantastic soundtrack. The game sounds brilliant. So for you, one of the biggest draws for Payday is the music. Get Payday 3. You will not be disappointed. This one's a bit of a nitpick, I'll be honest, but for me, one of the big cons of Payday 3 is that there's not enough suits on offer. For me, a lot of the best suits are the ones that the default characters have. I think my favourite outfit is probably Joy's, to be honest. Her default outfit is just absolutely brilliant. I would really love it if the default outfits had colour variations that other characters could equip. I think that would be really cool, and you can make it so that other characters can only wear different colours and not the standard colours that the traditional character wears. So you could have Dallas's outfit on Hoxton, but it can't be brown and cream, it has to be a different colour. That could be a really cool idea. But aside from that, there are a few outfits you can get in Payday 3, and they are quite cool. Quite a few of them, I do like them. But a lot of the progression is, you've unlocked a new colour for this one. Once you've got 5 or 6 suits, you've got all the suits, and you're just pretty much getting all the colour variations, which I get, but I honestly just prefer the way it was in Payday 2, where you click on a suit and within it there'd be colour variations, because right now it's just a bit of like an alluring thing where you look in the vendor section and go, look at all these suits, these look great, but most of them are colour variations of each other, and it's just a bit... I just want more on offer. I know that'll get added post-launch, and wow, it's gone dark in my room. I know it'll get added post-launch, and I'm fine with that, but I just wish that at launch there'd been a few more to get the ball rolling. I really think there should have been a few more suits. And the fact that there's a classic cut suit that you can get, like a proper two-piece, and there isn't a black option... Add it, Starbreeze. Please, come on, what are you doing? Back to the pros, I have to talk about the performances, because across the board, the voice acting here is stellar. In particular, the 6 lead heisters and Kosha Engler, I think is how you say her name, as Shade, as the new operator. She's brilliant. I really, really, really like her. I think her performance is great. She's got some good comedic lines. She's got some very serious stuff. I think as an overall operator, she's brilliant. And while the core 4 heisters are brilliant, we know this already. Simon Kerr, Pete Gold, Damien Poitier have already proven how good they are. And Nicholas Berglund has aced it as Wolf. I think he's brilliant. I've got to give particular credit to both Xu Si-hung, I believe is how you say her name, and Rebecca LaChance, or Rebecca LaChance. Again, pronunciation, I'm really trying to be as careful as I can here. But the voice actresses behind Joy and Pearl, both of them have done a fantastic job. Now, I know Joy has her haters in Payday 2, so people thought she was a bit too screechy, a bit too memey. For me, I think Joy is really, really good. I never really had a big problem with her in Payday 2, but in 3, I think they've absolutely nailed her. I think she's matured. She's still got a few of her little nerdy gamer edges, but there's not really anything bad about that. I mean, Sydney had pager lines in Payday 2 where she'd say, what do you think of Jared Leto as the new Joker? So there's always going to be a couple of lines that are a bit goofy, and I always expected that. For me, I think both of their performances are really, really good. They're both unique, and they're both very fun to play as. And it just means that you've got 6 heisters with very unique personalities. I'm really enjoying the wide array of the performances within the characters and just the whole vibe they put across. I think the performances performances and the acting, everything overall, not just for the heisters though, for everyone else, has just been fantastic. Some of the returning characters sound great, but mainly Core 6 and Shade all knock it out the park. I think they're brilliant. For the penultimate con though, I want to briefly talk about the menus, but not in the way that I think a lot of people are saying, because a lot of people are saying the base menu just looks like a Call of Duty layout. As long as it doesn't look like Modern Warfare 2 2022, I'm quite happy. That weird like streaming service layout is horrific, and I don't want any game to ever have that again. But for me, my only real issue with the menus, while the main landing page is a little bit bland, I don't mind it too much, it's within the actual customization section, picking your guns, picking your suits, because you only have 2 slots, and then it's basically going down in a scroll bar from there. Once you've got quite a few guns or suits, you're going to be scrolling through trying to find things. I don't think the grid is wide enough. There should be maybe 3 or 4 per row, so you just can see a few more things and pick things a bit easier. Beyond that, I think when you go to buy a gun and it throws you into the vendor section, you buy it, it doesn't then take you straight back to the loadout. I think it should do that. Unless you go specifically into the vendor section to buy something, you should be taken back to where you started. If I go in my inventory, I go to buy a gun, I pick the gun, it should then take me straight to the gun like it does in Payday 2, rather than just leaving me stranded in the vending area going, so do I bring myself back here? The layout's not perfect, but across the board overall, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out. I think the menu is a bit more fresh, a bit more modern, and I don't dislike it. All right, we got 1 pro and 1 con left, and these are probably 2 of the biggest ones in the game. The pro for me is the story. I love the cutscenes, I love the narrative, I love the use of returning characters. For me, Payday 3 has hit the ground running with the story this time around. Payday 2, again, I've said this a few times now, the story, while it was good, felt like it was a bit of a last-minute thought in the last year or so. They were like, you know what, people are trying to pick out lore, why don't we give them something to go off? And they kind of built this thing up, and they went a bit mental with, you know, the coffers and the dentist and immortality and all this stuff, and I have my own personal opinions on it being a bit too much for me, but that's just me personally. Some people love it, I know that. But for me, Payday 3 has just come up with an actual Payday narrative that doesn't go mental, it doesn't go, oh, we're gonna have gods and demons and stuff. It's just, the Payday gang have been attacked, let's build our reputation back up, find who's responsible, and deal with them. And there's a cutscene before and after all of the heists, and it builds a narrative, brings back characters, and overall I think is really, really fun. I love that there's a story I can get invested into without feeling I have to do 3 hours of research like it's Treyarch Zombies. I think it's so, so good. And I'm excited to see the narrative build up from there. They've got some consistency, and I want to see where they take it. I think they've done really, really well there. And of course, if you haven't seen all the cutscenes yet, I did upload a video yesterday putting them into a movie with a special movie-style intro. Go watch that. But the final con is unfortunately quite a big one, and that is about the number of heists in the game. Now, this is going to be something a lot of people are talking about, and a lot of people have got different opinions on this, and that's fine. When I was doing my interviews in Sweden, I kind of noted to Almir and Andreas that, you know, I could see why they were going for 8 heists, because they wanted them all to have a unique movie-style feel like Payday the Heist, which, in fairness, only launched with 6. Fair enough, that does still apply. But for me, the RNG can vary between heists with like keycard spawns and stuff, as it normally does, but the general gist of the heist, you pick up after playing 2 or 3 times. And I wonder if for a lot of people, whether playing it 3, 4, 5 times will be enough, then you'll go, so what do I do now? And some challenge completions are pretty sure require you to beat certain heists loud or stealth like 15 times or something. I swear that's some of the numbers for challenge completion. Granted, that's for maybe the more hardcore heisters, I get that. But for me, I'm like, am I going to want to play all these heists over and over and over and over and over? And I'm like, I don't know. There's already a couple where I'm like, I've played this enough, especially No Rest for the Wicked. I love that heist, but it's the risk of having a beta when you've got so few levels, and in hindsight, I get why there weren't 2 heists in the beta now, because you would have given people a quarter of the game, and that would have been a quarter people may not have been as interested in at launch, so that's fair. I just hope that Payday 3 manages to add enough heists over the next few months to keep people in, because we know there's going to be a heist every 3 months as DLC, but they have confirmed there'll be free heists as well. So my question is, what's the frequency of free heists going to be? We'll see. Time will tell, honestly. But for me, I just worry about how many heists there are and whether people will be hooked after a few months. I know when I first picked up Payday 2, I said in my Goodbye Payday 2 video earlier this week, once I realized how many heists there were and I played them a few times, I was like, this'll do, and then didn't pick it up for another year again until Crime Wave came out on Xbox One, because there was so much more to do, and that was what lured me back in, because there was so much on offer. I just worry that with Payday 3, there's not quite enough on offer. That's me personally. Now, I know that's why the price tag is cheaper. That's why it was a $40 base game, because there's not $60, $70 worth of content available in there. That's fair, I get it. I'm intrigued to see where the game goes from here, and that's why I said the Silver Edition feels like a full AAA game, because that's the $70 price tag, I'm pretty sure. Maybe after 6 months of support, the game will feel like it has AAA level of content. So I'll be interested to see how this point stands in 6 months' time in hindsight, how I feel about it then. Just be cautious that if you play a few levels and then you get a bit bored, you may want to wait a bit, for me personally, before you pick up the game. But I do think the heists that are in the game are really good. The heists are not bad in any way. It's not like you're playing Payday 2 where one of the jobs you can do in 45 seconds. There's a challenge to do the jewelry store in Payday 3 with 120 seconds, but I think that takes a very coordinated team. It's not the same as just putting a C4 on a safe and running away with a tiara like Ukrainian job. The heists are really, really good. I cannot stress that enough. There's just not enough in my opinion. But there you go. Those are my unabridged thoughts on Payday 3. I had quite a lot to say and quite a lot of opinions to get out. Some good, some bad. All in all, do I recommend the game? Yes, I do think the game is absolutely brilliant. I just have some personal nitpicks and critiques that I think need to be touched on, addressed on, improved upon. Of course, it's just my opinion, and you may not agree with it, and Starbreeze may not agree with it, and that's fine. But I hope that at least some of my points have resonated as feedback that can make the game better, because I do think, although I keep using this phrase, across the board, Payday 3 is a lot better. There are definitely ways it could be improved, and that's why this video is the good and the bad of Payday 3, because there's definitely a combination of the two. But regardless, thank you all very much for watching this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please click the like button to show me you like this content and would like to see more. And if you're new around here and haven't already clicked the subscribe button, please do. It's quick, it's free. I'll always love you for doing so, and you'll never miss out on any future Payday 3 content. But apart from that, I'll leave it there. I'll see you all very soon with some more Payday videos. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all very soon.